welcome to this Saturday's edition of News Now. I'm Nayantara Rai, working from home. When ET Now is always ahead of the curve when it comes to breaking the big stories, especially on Deal Street. The one we're going to talk about now is something you heard first right here on this channel back in March. ET Now's Pankaj Poddar was the first to tell you how Piramal could be getting a big private equity investor in the pharmaceutical business. It could be Carlyle, and that's exactly what has happened, where a 20% stake is going to be sold to the global private equity giant for about $500 million. Pankaj Poddar joining us live. First up, Pankaj, congratulations on the big news break. There's one thing I've learned in my last 15 years of being a business journalist. Always expect Ajay Piramal to pull a rabbit out of the hat. There have been all these reports about how the group is under financial strain, the debts, all of that. He's proved them wrong when it comes to the NBFC, and once again, getting big bucks from a big player for the pharmaceutical business.
Absolutely, Nayantara. So, this is something which started back in Feb 2020. In March, we reported that 12 players have shown interest, mainly private equity players. And just recently, we did an update on the story, taking that Carlyle is probably the front runner, KKR, and one or two other PE players are also in the foray. Now, finally, this morning, the deal has been announced. You will shortly hear from the top management at both Carlyle as well as Piramal Group. Just in about a few minutes from now, the press conference should start. So we'll cut across to that. So what essentially has happened is Carlyle Group will be investing for a 20% stake sale in the pharma business. Now they're calling it as growth capital. It'll be fresh investments that they would be looking in at, and overall this comes in at an EV, or valuing the pharma business at an EV of about $2.7 billion. So that's what we are looking at. And now when we look at this particular deal, $490 million, what the press release very clearly says is that this is going to be a growth capital. It's going to be used for both organic and inorganic opportunity. They will be increasing their site manufacturing capabilities as well as looking at inorganic opportunities. What I want to hear from them is that, does this mean that the oral solid business or the business that they sold to Abbott is something which they would get back into? Is that something what they have used these, raised these funds for? And secondly, Carlyle is coming in, which means there is a value unlocking which is happening in this business, similar to what you saw in Geo for the Reliance Group. So will they list this in future? Will they not list this in future? Will NBFC arm be completely different? All of these are some questions that definitely get raised after so many rounds of fundraising that has happened. It's a deal which was on the anticipated line. About $500 million is what you're looking at. Yes, it's subject to some deal. Let's just wait for the press conference. I think we'll get more details as to what are the plans, when do they plan to list the pharma business, as now there is an investor into this particular business, and what do they plan to do separately with the NBFC business as well.
So, Pankaj, while we wait for a lot more details when it comes in from the press conference, what I wanted to ask you was that given what's happening in the world, COVID-19, how a lot of countries are looking inward. Remember, the cabinet recently came out with its own API policy. We're trying to reduce our exposure to China. If I were to look at all of that in perspective, what can this deal mean for Piramal?
So, this deal means that they have firstly money in the pharma business. They have separated the NBFC and the pharma business. So in someday, probably they would want to list those two businesses separately. Now that they have deals and, they are operating at full capacity as we last spoke to them, they would probably want to increase capacities, attract more talent. Remember, they have a lot of facilities across the globe. So what do they do there? How do they attract talent? And secondly, in the Q4 conference call, they had said that, they are on track to raise this money, and the deal or the ongoing deal talks are underway with various players. They also very categorically said that this may be used for inorganic opportunities as well. This could also be used for getting back into the traditional pharma business that they were there once before they sold it to Abbott. So let's wait and watch as to what they say, but I think this opens up, it's a growth capital, and it opens up new opportunities for them. Now, whether it happens via the inorganic route or it happens via entering into the traditional old business that they had earlier, is something that I would like to hear from them.
Okay, so let's wait for all the details from the press conference. Thanks a lot, Pankaj, for joining us with a live update. Congratulations once again on that big news break. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, you heard it first right here on the channel. It's now official. You will have private equity giant Carlyle pumping in $500 million for a 20% stake in Piramal's pharmaceutical business. We will be live with the press conference as well.